So, Keir Starmer has finally worked out what a woman is, and all it took was an 88-page judgment from 5 Supreme Court judges. Earlier this month, the UK's highest court issued a landmark ruling, confirming that sex actually means sex under our equality law.
The unanimous decision of this court is that the terms woman and sex in the Equality Act 2010 refer to a biological woman and biological sex.
If you're a man, you're a man. If you're a woman, you're a woman. And if you're a lesbian, you don't have to allow a bloke in a dress to attend your speed dating night. It's frankly amazing this ever had to be settled in court in the first place, but here we are. It's all been a tremendous blow to the gender extremists who thought they had the law on their side when they were invading women's spaces. They haven't been taking it at all well.
Nobody is going to force what is effectively trans apartheid.
I feel unsafe, yeah.
You feel unsafe?
I feel unsafe, and now I'd really like to go.
I thought you were actually plugged into a mic there. I thought we were going to have a conversation.
But it has also been a tremendous headache for our Prime Minister, who has been haunted by the trans issue ever since he became Labour leader in 2020. After a deafening 6-day silence, Starmer welcomed the Supreme Court ruling last week.
I actually welcome the judgment because I think it gives real clarity.
Stressing how pleased he was by the clarity of it, and even daring to say that a woman is an adult female. A Downing Street spokesman then put an even finer point on it, briefing journalists that Starmer does not believe that trans women are women. How precious that our barrister-PM required some judges to explain to him something that most small children understand. Perhaps now he'll seek the wisdom of the court on whether the sky is indeed blue or water is indeed wet. To say that Starmer has been on a journey where gender ideology is concerned is perhaps too generous. He has been humiliating himself over and over again, mindlessly spouting trans propaganda before eventually colliding with public opinion and now the courts. This wasn't so much a Damascene conversion as a demonstration of what a tit a politician can make of himself when he has no real convictions of his own. Only 3 years ago, Starmer proudly declared that trans women are women, and that is not just my view, that is actually the law. This, of course, is precisely the confusion that the Supreme Court corrected in its judgment. Despite Starmer's lengthy legal training, it seems his grasp of the law on gender has been as weak as his grasp of biological reality. Starmer certainly sported his ignorance of human anatomy with his pontifications about whether or not men can have cervixes or women can have penises. In 2021, then Labour MP Rosie Duffield was being hounded by trans activists for daring to say that only women can have a cervix. When asked by the BBC about Duffield's supposed heresy, Starmer said it was
not right
and something that
shouldn't be said.
Naturally, journalists continued to pursue this line of questioning with him. After years of skirting whether women can have penises, Starmer came up with a formulation he thought would please all sides in 2023. He told the Sunday Times that 99.9% of women don't have a penis, which would mean that 1 in 1,000 British women does have a penis, which works out at roughly 35,000 female penises. How he arrived at this figure and by what means of investigation was never made clear. Starmer refused to listen to Duffield.
Not right.
She was essentially hounded out of the Labour Party as Starmer looked the other way. She now sits as an independent. In the House of Commons last week, her face was an absolute picture as Starmer spoke from the dispatch box and pretended he has always defended sex-based rights.
Shouldn't be said.
Pathetically, it took an intervention from Tony Blair for Starmer, this Blairite photocopy, to start talking some sense.
Ink running low.
Biologically, a woman is with a vagina and a man is with a... the penis. I'm tripping over the penis. I've lost it. Biologically, a woman is with a vagina and a man is with a penis, declared Blair in an article ahead of last year's general election. It's the kind of comment that Starmer would have once dismissed as
not right.
But seeing as it came from Labour's most successful living leader, Starmer couldn't help but gush. Tony's right about that, he told The Telegraph. He put it very well. I agree with him on that. So, Keir Starmer has gone from believing that trans women are women, that they are legally entitled to women's spaces, and that saying only women can have a cervix makes you a bigot, to believing the precise opposite of all of those things in just a few years. Back in 2020, Starmer was even calling for gender self-identification. This would have meant men being allowed to access women's spaces and services by declaration alone, removing the already meagre processes in place to avoid abuse of the system. Although it has never been the law of the land, the adoption of self-ID by various institutions is what led to rapists and sex offenders being admitted to women's prison, hospital wards and changing rooms. It was among the most dangerous and deranged demands of the gender loons.
If you see a turf, punch him in the face!
and the supposedly sensible Starmer once backed it to the hilt.
Labour are now the grown-ups in the room.
Starmer is hardly the only person in Labour or in British politics to make a fool out of himself by bending the knee to gender ideology. David Lammy, our Foreign Secretary, once said that men can grow a cervix if supplied with the right hormone.
The cervix, I understand, is something that you can have following various procedures and hormone treatment.
Backbencher Dawn Butler thinks babies are born without a biological sex.
They are identified and observed in a particular sex,
The child is born without sex, and the child is formed without sex in the beginning, but anyway.
But there is something particularly alarming about being led by someone who stands for absolutely nothing, who unthinkingly imbibes luxury beliefs and defers to phony experts, who dismisses those who raise reasonable concerns before making a screeching U-turn and pretending that nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed.
Starmer is the anti-conviction politician, an empty, slab-headed receptacle into which any mad idea can be poured, only to be jettisoned when it's politically expedient to do so. Given how much work is left to do to properly push gender ideology out of our captured institutions, this doesn't bode well for the battle ahead. Still, Starmer's volte-face remains a remarkable achievement of the gender-critical movement. They've changed the political weather on the gender debate and forced our human weather vane of a PM to turn in their direction. On this issue, if no other, the high-status opinion no longer reigns supreme. And that is one hell of a start.